Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with this week's episode of the Market Monday. Today I want to talk about Eldritch Moon, specifically about when this is a prime time right after your pre-release just to sell every Eldritch Moon card that you pick up. Now, a lot of people at this point in time, if you listen to other like podcasts or other market people, they like to talk about like hidden gems of what you could speculate on and what could go up. I mean, every time we see a new set comes out, there's always like that sleeper that people do not expect to go up or to see a lot of play, and then it just goes crazy after the first major tournament or pro tour, and so you can get into them for like $1 or $2 and they go way up. One of those, like Kozilek's Return, is a great example of a card that was super cheap at its release and then just went crazy after it was played in Legacy and in a bunch of the standard base decks. And every set there's going to be one or two or three of those, but the vast majority of cards in Eldritch Moon are going to go down. So what I like to do immediately after the pre-release is either sell them off on eBay or a trading service like Puka Trade, or just trade with other people as quickly as possible, because they will start to fall in value. Now, Eldritch Moon especially seems to be one of those sets, because you can see the estimated value right now of Eldritch Moon is about $300. Now, that is what you usually see from a large set. This is kind of like a medium set. You have 206 cards, 14 mythics, 47 rares. A lot of times this is like Shadows or Innistrad was about selling for the same. I think it was actually around 270. We'll have to go and check and see what it was pre-selling at. Let's go check and see that really quick. So if we come over here to the Shadows of Innistrad, we can see that when it started, it got up to 380. Okay, so yeah, this set was right after the spoiler started hitting, was around 300, then jumped up to the 375. So let's go back to the Eldritch Moon. So I guess this is pretty average, or a little bit of it. I still think this is above average for most of the smaller sets that come out, about $300. I think after it stabilizes, it's going to go down to 240 at least within the next month or so. So you can see a lot of these rares are actually around $10. Rares have a very hard time at staying around, I would say even above $5. We're thinking about like Tireless Tracker, and the most played card in Standard now being Sylvan Advocate is not $10. It's less than $10. So any rare that's above that $5 margin, I do like to get rid of as quickly as possible. So the big mythics are Giselle the Broken Blade. That's all speculation. She is a really good card. Buy or sell, flying first strike, lifelink, and then if you do have a Bruna and then flip it into the Bracella Voice of Nightmares, of course that's going to be a very powerful card. It's almost on par with, like, actually a little more powerful than the Westvale Abbey, but it takes a lot of work to get that combo out, and I think people are just banking on the fact that Giselle by herself is going to be a very powerful card with flying first strike, likely 4/3. I don't know. I think in today's day and age, that's actually pretty average of a card. I mean, we're putting it on the same like power level of, like, I would say the Thunderbreak Regent being a 4/4, and whenever you target it, it deals 3 damage. I don't know if Giselle is actually more powerful than, say, that card. Or so, but then again, it will have a ton of casual play, and a lot of people are going to try to. It might be the Curve Topper in Humans instead of like the Archangel. I don't know if I like it over Gideon, though. I think that it's such a weird card that you have to really put it in the same category as Gideon. Are you going to play Gisela over Gideon? What decks want Gisela over a Planeswalker that can put out a 2/2 to protect itself and then become a 5/5 indestructible that just keeps bashing down, or immediately give all of your creatures a +1/+1 emblem that can never go away? So as long as Gideon's in the format, it's always going to compete with, or Giselle's always going to compete for that slot. So Tamiyo is another card that's very expensive. The good news for Tamiyo is Bant is a popular color right now, and I think it actually does work pretty well in a Bant collected company, because all of the abilities do. The synergy with Tamiyo and Reflector Mage is really good. The synergy with the -2, because then you can bounce something and then tap 2 things down. And then the synergy with also Coco decks, giving 2 creatures the ability to get you a card is very, very good with Tameo, so its +1's actually really good. The 4 loyalty right off the bat is extremely good as well, because you can immediately -2 and then +1 and then -2 again, and Tameo's alive. So I think it's a great card, but it's going to be so hard for Tameo to stay at that $25 mark. I think around 16, 14 is probably a better price level for this specific card, because of just how narrow this card can go. It has to only go in Bant decks. That's it. Or 4 or 5 colored decks, which are going to be very hard in this type of format to actually pull off. So it's not a get in. It's not even a Chandra, in my opinion. It's not splashable whatsoever in any other sort of decks like those two cards are. And I don't think that this card can hold a $24 price tag. Same with Liliana. Liliana is just very narrow with the abilities. Unless she sees the tier 1 of all tier 1 decks, I think Liliana is just destined to go down. I don't think this card is modern playable. The +2 -1 is very, very weak in modern, with a lot of like the zoo-based decks having an Acatl that's a 3/3 or a Tarmogoyf that's a 4/5. It's going to be very hard to protect Liliana against those type of creatures. And then the Corpse Churn ability is okay at the -2, but you can only use that once before you have to then +2 Liliana twice, which is really bad, I would say. And then the -7 is actually a very, very underwhelming ability as well. So Liliana, I think, is the one that's going to fall the absolute most. Emrakul, I think, is the one that has the most ability to grow in price. $16 for an Emrakul that I think is powerful enough in Modern. I think it's powerful enough in... There's going to be so many ways to cheat this stupid thing out. And just a 13/13 flying trample protection from instance is just a... It's a nice card by itself. I think you do want to cast it, which is the problem. But the synergy with Nahiri and Emrakul is actually pretty good, because it costs 1 less for each card type. And Nahiri is going to get you those card types in the graveyard. Then Nahiri is going to be able to cheat Emrakul into play. Then, if your opponent's not dead at that point, then it goes back to your hand, and then you can cast Emrakul. So I think that a lot of people are going to try to make that work and whatnot. The Grim Flayer is going to be another card that I think has a pretty good chance of going up in value, just because Green-Black right now does see a lot of play. And I think that this guy is very, very good with the Delirium gets +2/+2, so it feels a lot like Sylvan Advocate. It will die to Languish, which Sylvan Advocate does not die to Languish. And so we've seen like Rixasha Death Dealer that saw a lot of play. We saw the Grim Flayer that or Sylvan Advocate that just saw play. We've seen cards like Voice Resurgence. All these are 2-drops that have a plus side to just being a 2/2 for 2. The Trample is actually very significant on this card if some way you can pump it up. And when it ever deals combat damage to player, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your library and put any of them on top of your library or back in your graveyard in any order. Miracle, this card's kind of cool with like miracle type abilities to put things back on top of, or to kind of rearrange your library. I mean, this is basically Scry 3 every time it hits, and not a little bit better than Scry 3 because you can actually put cards into the graveyard. A huge Delirium enabler. Yeah, and it actually wants Delirium. So I really like the Grim Flayer. I don't know why it's the least expensive, because this is the card that most likely is going to see a 4 of in decks out of all of the mythics that we've talked about so far. So I do like Grim Flayer as sort of a sleeper, but I'd hesitate in investing in cards that are $12. So far, it's the best one that I like. Eldritch Evolution is the rare that, of course, everyone's talking about. There's going to be some sick combos with this card. It is one of the cards that I think could actually go up if it is just completely broken in Modern or Legacy. It's a one-time kind of like food chain type ability, but then you can search. It's insanely good, especially on these Eldrazi that you can sacrifice creatures to put into play. Eldritch Evolution could be easily to tutor up a big creature that you want and play. A lot of the problem with the Eldritch Evolution right now is there aren't a lot of cards that want to be cheated into play. They want to be cast. Like, all of the Eldrazi want to be cast. Dragonlord Atarka, though, I think is the best card to synergize with Eldritch Evolution. The unfortunate thing is you won't have the Dragonlord Atarka for very much longer after this set comes out, and then we have another set in September. So you just have that little teeny window for the Dragonlord Atarka. The Spell Queller is going to be a nice card again, especially with the Eldrazi Displacer. But this card is the perfect example of a $9 card that cannot hit its price. If Eldrazi Displacer can only be a $4 card, Spell Queller cannot stay at $9. I think it's going to stabilize down to $3-4 as well. Thalia, however, has a lot of Legacy and Modern implications. And I think that this card is going to be insanely good in Humans. Humans has a lot. We're getting the Hamlet Captain as well. So I think Humans is going to be here to stay forever. Hamlet Captain, if for those you don't know, is an uncommon. It's a 2/2. Whenever it attacks, all humans get +1. Whenever it blocks, all other humans get +1 as well. And so I think that a lot of the Humans deck are going to migrate over to green. I think it just puts it over the top from the Reckless Bushwhacker. I'm not, well, Reckless Bushwhacker plays a very similar role, but I think that just getting out the Duskwatch Recruiter and the now the Hamlet Captain is a color combination that I think that Humans actually want. It's like Duskwatch Recruiter allows you to come back after board wipes, and the Hamlet Captain allows you to have just those insanely powerful draws. I think it's a little bit better than Knight of the White Orchid, and is going to have people gravitate over to the green-white. And Thalia's going to keep Humans, and I think Thalia's going to go in a ton of different decks. Just insanely powerful. I think the people are actually underrating Thalia at the moment. Decimator of the Provinces is actually the mythic that I am going to pick as the card that I think can go up the most. This is a really powerful card. It's my favorite card out of the set so far. It's because I'm really obsessed. If you watch my latest Rogues Allies decks over at Gathering Magic, I really like the Cryptolith Rite, and I think that this card is perfect with Cryptolith Rite to actually emerge out. So you can actually Cryptolith Rite out like a Brood Monitor very quickly, and then you can sack the Brood Monitor to reduce the cost of the Decimator of Provinces by 6. You still have a bunch of 3/3s out. You still have a bunch of other stuff, like there's a Scion that puts one out. There is an Eyeless Watcher that puts 3 out. So this mono green Cryptolith Rite, I think this is the enabler that I've been waiting for. I've been using cards like Ugin or Ulamog and the Great Aurora, and I don't like them. Both of those are just kind of weird in the deck because you kind of swap back forth between like a very aggressive and a like more of a go wide strategy. I think Decimator of the Provinces perfectly puts this deck together. And then you can actually splash into blue for a bunch of cards, either or black. Blue or black, I think, is where Decimator of Providence's Cryptolith Rite type deck wants to. Black, you get cards like Zulport Cutthroat that I think are really good for this like sacrificing type thing. We also get a lot of cool Emerge type cards out of the format in black. And then blue, there's also some pretty sweet blue-green Emerge cards. But you get cards like the 2/1 Flyer that puts out the 1/1 Eldrazi, as well as the Ruinous Eldrazi that gives Eldrazi +1/+1. And so between Decimator and the Ruinous, you can easily overwhelm your opponent in one turn. So whenever you cast it, creatures can go +2/+2 and gain trample until a turn. Again, this card works perfectly off cards you've already got value out of, like maybe Oblivion Sower. I don't think you want to kill Oblivion Sower per se, but Brood Monitor is the card that I like it the most with, because it curves perfectly. You're going to Cryptolith Rite into a Brood Monitor, and then the next turn, Brood Monitor sacks for 6. You'll have 4 left over easily from your mana base. You won't even have to use like the Cryptolith Rite type cards to get this guy into play. It's going to... I mean, it only costs 9 with the Emerge, too, so it's even less of a mana cost than the 10. So it's just 3 mana you need to pump into the Decimator. And then if you even have, like, so the 3 Brood Monitor tokens, if you have a couple other tokens from either an Eyeless Watcher or a Scion or a Catacomb Sifter, then all of them get +2/+2. It's an easy victory right there. So that is the card I'm going to pick for the sleeper card out of the set. I also like Jissa and Giraffe as another mythic. I think $5 is low for that. People are just thinking this is going to see play, but just the synergy, insane synergy with the Prized Amalgam and some of the other zombies that you can recur naturally. Gissa puts in 4 cards, so it self-mills. It's a 4/4 body. That is not bad. It does die to Languish. As soon as Languish is out of format, I think Jissa and Giraffe get a lot better because they do survive the Languish. It doesn't die to Ultimate Price. It does still die to Grasp of Darkness, though. So keep that in mind. But you do get immediate quote-unquote value out of it by self-milling. Again, Delirium is going to be a thing now. And then the Prize Amalgam, it could get those Prize Amalgams in the graveyard, or the stitched zombie that you can then bring back in and bring the Prize Amalgams. I'm liking Jissa and Giraffe. We're just missing a little bit out of that blue-black zombies type list. The Ulrich of the Krowlin Horde is the most hated card out of the set, but I think people are missing the fact that this is a strong card. When you cast it on turn 5, your turn 4 card, whatever it may be, even like a Thunderbreak Region, becomes a +4/+4, and you can swing in for that +4 damage there. And then, if it happens to flip, then it's going to be able to fight something down as a 6/6, I just actually do like this card. I think it's another card that actually pairs very well with the Eldrazi Displacer. So you can displace it to give something +4/+4. It's underrated. I think that people hate the card, but I think it will see play. And a Mythic that does see play will at least keep its price tag. Tree Perdition has that synergy with the Triskadil, and it's going to see a ton of casual play, I'm sure. Nahiri's Wrath is another card I think is very, very good. So a lot of these mythics I think are underrated and could go up. It's these top heavy ones that have to go down, in my opinion. But anyway, that's just the mythic kind of analysis. We're at 15 minutes, and I haven't even got to the gist of what I was talking about where I think Eldritch Moon does the most for the market watch here and what cards can actually go up because of Eldritch Moon. So I think that since this is the last set before rotation, it's going to actually affect the game the least. Because of the big sets already out there and nothing is rotating out, we already have a very established metagame. I don't see a lot of cards. Humans gets a ton better because of Thalia and because of Duskwatch Recruiter, but that, or excuse me, the Handwar Captain. The thing though is some of the cards that get a lot better now, I think Red gets a lot better. First of all, we have the 3-drop, or the 2-drop 3 damage. It is sorcery speed. It does exile a card, though, which I think is pretty significant. So I think that Red can go 2 different routes. What I like for Red is kind of this little list. This is a UR Goggles list. Take out the goggles. It's unnecessary in this type of thing, as I don't think it provides enough value. Actually, I don't see goggles in this particular list. So, yeah, they're Pyromancer's goggles. Yeah, so that's the right. It is in here. So yeah, I think the Pyromancer's goggles is I don't know. I just don't think it's necessary in the type of deck that I want to build. I want to build like a Fevered Visions type with Exquisite Firecraft and some of the new red cards that we get. We get a ton of amazing cards in red, and I think it's going to revive these goggles or even goggle-less blue-red type of control type cards. Still have the Goblin Dark Dwellers that will actually synergize with a few of these cards that I'm going to talk about, and we still have Jace in the format to really add to the value that you can get off of flashbacking cards. So let's just go ahead and let's go back over here, let's find, where was I? Yeah, cards like Exquisite Firecraft still exist. So red, the cards that I like out of red, that we're going to get, that I think are going to be very, very, very powerful. First of all is the Impetuous Devils. It's a 6-mana, or 4-mana, 6-damage spell. So if you can keep the board clear, just a few of these can actually kill off your opponent. It also has the ability to actually kill off a pesky creature. I'm thinking the cards like Kalitas, even though Kalitas will still get an advantage out of it, but the Trample and Haste, you can actually dish off some leftover damage. If there's a way to pump this up, or give it double strike, that's pretty powerful on this card as well. But I think all these cards, Ball of Lightning type cards, have traditionally seen play in their formats. But the card I'm really super excited about, and I haven't heard much talk about, is the Bedlam Reveler. The Bedlam Reveler is an 8-mana for 3/4 prowess, so it's going to want to go in an instant and sorcery type card. And then its mana cost is reduced for every sorcery or instant in the graveyard. But the ability that I think really puts it over the top is it enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. As a really late game, you're not going to have any cards. Think mono red here. The problem with a mono red is they tend to be more creature heavy than spell heavy. But even if you have to you have like 3 sorcery cards in your graveyard and you're out of cards, I think 5 mana to draw 3 cards and have a prowess 3/4 out on the battlefield is a pretty powerful ability, especially in a red deck that wants to unload its hand very quickly. So keep your eye on Bedlam Reveler. I think this card could be was it one of those that was, let me check the prices real quick. So I guess the Reveler is still at $5, so it is a card people are keeping their eye out. But yeah, I think that's about right if it does see a lot of play. But I think that where Bedlam Reveler could see play is a lot more even in the modern. I think that Burn might actually want this card. Maybe in a sideboard, as it leads back to 3/4 prowess. It can easily be cast. Maybe not Burn, but possibly even Jund might want this card because it has good synergy with Liliana when you're getting rid of your own hand. And late, like on even turn 4, you should have like a Thoughtseize and an Abrupt Decay at least in the graveyard. Now we're down to 6 mana. If you have a Lightning Bolt in the graveyard, it's down to 5 mana. I really, really like this card. I think that it's going to see a ton of play. And so I think it might put those red decks actually in contention. It works very well with even Kozilek's return type control based decks. It survives against both Radiant Flames and Kozilek's return with the 3/4 toughness. Doesn't survive Languish, but it's easy to get it above the Languish with just casting one spell. And it also, with the Kolgan's Command, is really good, or even we get some really, really good cards out of black in the instants or sorceries that are coming out in the set. So let's go back to some of the spoilers. Well, it's going to be the Collective Brutality I really like as a sorcery, for example. It discards a card. So the synergy between Collective Brutality and Bedlam Reveler and the Kolgan's Command is extremely good. We get some more Madness-based cards out of the... Of course, people have understood the power of the Handwork Garrison. It's kind of like, I like to call it Goblin Rabblemaster's Light. It puts in a 2/1 red, 2 red, 1/1 human creatures on the battlefield tapped and attacking. Red humans actually might be good with Hanwar Captain. Because the problem with Hanwar Captain, I think, is these won't see the trigger, though. The 1/1 red human creatures won't see the ++1 trigger. Neither will Reckless Bushwhacker with it. So there's that. But unless there's some way you can instant speed in a Reckless Bushwhacker. But it's after the declare attacks have happened, so that's not going to be very good. The one card it does synergize well with, the Garrison, is the Atarka's Command. Because the Atarka's Command can be used after the fact. So keep your eye on this. This kind of brings us into more of a red-green, I would say, aggro-based version. We get another Madness Vampire that's a 3/2 with Trample, and whenever it deals combat damage, you can exile top card library and play it. We get some really... I think the two colors that I like the most out of this set are probably red and black. We get a lot of sweet cards out of that, and so again, it's all the cards. That's a color combination that isn't seeing any play right now. So you can think cards like the Kolgan's Command. I don't think that can go up because, of course, it's so playable and modern. But you'd have to look back at some of these cards out of the red-black archetype and see if they're actually going to be worthwhile, especially like the spell-based cards. Red-black dragons could actually be a thing. With the problem is we don't really have very good dragons out of red-black. I think Kolgan himself at 6 mana is kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to put that archetype. I really like the more spell version or vampires version. I think we do get enough cards. So, but we see the Collected Defiance is another card that I think is incredibly good. And the 3 mana with Collected Defiance is pretty cool with the Goblin Dark Dwellers. I don't know if you can pay the Escalate with Goblin Dark Dwellers. Someone in the comment section, I think you actually can. Pay this cost for each mode chosen beyond the first. Yes, so I think you can choose. So when you cast it, you choose modes, and then you have to pay additional after you cast. Is that how it works? Someone in the comment section will have to correct me, but I think this can work with Goblin Dark Dwellers. And 4 damage to a creature and 3 damage to opponent off of Goblin Dark Dwellers. Oh, man. The cool thing about Collected Defiance that I really want to talk about, too, is it's another Waste Not Enabler. My red-black Waste Not Modern deck, it's another awesome, awesome tool, especially in the Storm version, as this will fill back up your hand after you've blown everything, and it's in red. That's exactly what you want to see because you generate a ton of red mana through the Storm-based cards, and Collected Defiance actually might be the enabler that we're waiting for. So check out Waste Not decks and see. I'll definitely be brewing a Waste Not up for Collected Defiance and seeing how well we can make the deck actually succeed. But anywho, I think we've gone on for about over 20 minutes now. So much things I could talk about with the Eldritch Moon. I think it's a great set. I like it a lot. I think it's one of my favorite second sets ever, because sometimes the first sets are really, really cool, and then the second and third sets are kind of like too support. They have too many support type things and not enough interesting things, or they just have a lot of duh cards like the Dragons of Tarkir that aren't really fun to brew around. They're just extremely powerful. But I really think that if I was to invest in everything, it'd be the green. Where is it? I like the Decimator of Provinces. Card's going to be insanely good. I think it's actually good enough to be played in Modern. This is a card that, of course, my Animar deck's going to love. I think all of these emerge cards are going to go insanely good with my Animar Commander deck. But if I were to pick any cards right now to really keep your eye on, it's going to be the Decimator of Provinces. I like Goblin Dark Dwellers. I think that right now it's going to Goblin Dark Dwellers, even though it was the buy box promo, is going to start to go up. And then the Bedlam Raveler and those type of red based decks, those goggles based decks. Keep your eye on Kozilek's Return. Keep your eye on a lot of those enablers for a lot of these red based spell decks. But I think that we'll end it here. We're about 25 minutes. Eldritch Moon, great set. I would say, besides the cards we've talked about, these top heavy ones, get rid of them and invest in these lower ones, and that should do you well in the long term. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Rogue Market. I hope it helps. If you're interested in seeing more videos for the Rogue Market, you can click on the link here, as well as click on the link to the right to go to our store to support Rogue Deck Builder. We have upcoming gear to be added to these sites, so keep checking back frequently. As always, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.